Here's Jeff Paterson, the host of RinkWide Vancouver and our Canucks reporter after, well, you tell me, Jeff, the biggest regular season win in how long?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, certainly this season, but the mountain only gets steeper from here. But, guys, that third period, like, who were those? Those weren't the Vancouver Canucks that I've seen and followed all season long. Shots were 16-1 at one point, finished up 17-4. So it's in there. It's there. And it was fun to watch, quite frankly. And good on them. And, I think for me, maybe the biggest takeaway was you can see the emotion. You saw the emotion on Elias Pettersson when he scored. Connor Garland, he's got a deep bag of tricks when it comes to celebration. So I wasn't surprised that he was whooping it up, but you could see what it meant to them. And look, there have been some times this season where we've wondered, what ultimately does this mean to this group, and do they want it badly enough? But I was encouraged to see that. And they're pros, obviously. They should be playing to win all the time. It's been a struggle and a frustrating season for them, but I just thought it was nice to see a few smiles. But more than that, just sort of feel that emotion that, maybe this could become a habit for them.
Well, it's tempting to take a win like that and say that could really be a springboard to get a third period comeback, your first all season, to dominate the third period, as you did against your direct competitor for a playoff spot. And yet, Jeff, stringing wins and good performances together has been so difficult. Oh, my God. Slow as Bill. What's your confidence level in this group being able to build off this one?
Well, they get thrown a gift in that regard, and the Chicago Blackhawks on Saturday night. Now, there are no easy games for the Canucks. We've had this discussion and debate about sitters. When you're the Vancouver Canucks, they make life difficult on themselves, right? So they just have to get it done against the Blackhawks. I don't really care what it looks like. That is one that the Blackhawks have one win in their last 9 road games. I think they've got the fewest road wins. Canucks have beaten them twice already, so they're 2 for 2 against Chicago. By any means, they just have to come out on top and get those 2 points, and then take their best swing against Utah, a rested Utah team on Sunday. So it's back-to-back again this weekend for the Canucks. Utah's in Seattle on Friday. They get Saturday off, and then they'll be ready on Sunday night. So, yeah, the game against Calgary was big. All those same things are going to apply on Sunday against this Utah hockey club. And in between, the Canucks just have to take care of business against the Blackhawks on Saturday.
I've been a little bit critical of Rick Tocchet of just coming out after so many games, 80% of the games, and saying, kind of shrugging his shoulders and bewildered at the lack of, effort / moving of the feet. He must be apoplectic after watching that third period, based on what you just said. Like, it is in there. It's not like it's impossible. He must just be shocked. Like, why can't you guys just see that when you do X, Y happens?
Yeah, I would think that there's a lot that is confused and confounded the coach this year, but add that to the list that, when the chips were down, their most important season or period of the season, yeah, they rose to the challenge. Now, it must have been a little strange for them to look across and think, there's a team that's sitting back and parking the bus against us. Like, that's our game. How dare you take our game plan and try and apply it? But, yet, what is this, lesson number 6,022 of, that's what happens when you sit back and instead of pushing. But guys, like, as much as we'll look in, I'm sure we'll talk about Elias Pettersson and his night and the return of Quinn Hughes. It wasn't a night where Kevin Lankinen had to be spectacular, but that save on Nazem Kadri on the power play early in the third in a 3-2 hockey game, if it gets to 4-2, I just don't think there's comeback. I think it changes the context completely around this Vancouver team that struggles to score goals. And so that truly was a game saver. Didn't know it at the time, but, point blank, Nazem Kadri, who knows how to put pucks in the net, and Kevin Lankinen stared him down. So that kind of propelled the Canucks. If they needed a boost, they got it there. And then from there, really just took over. And it kind of felt like an eventuality, and ultimately it was. And, you think back to the playoffs last year when Elias Pettersson missed a wide-open net, and we'll all remember sort of that body language. He looked to the heavens, and that kind of summed up his season at that point. And so that kind of flashed through my mind as the puck squirted free to him, and he had nothing between him and the back of the net. And even he said after the game, cut it a little close, but hey, found the mark. It's in. He scored in 3 of 4 now. And wouldn't this be something if this truly is an awakening for EP40?
Well, what's your confidence level there, Jeff? 4 of the last 5 games have been very good for Elias Pettersson. I'm not saying he's not going to have another poor one in the 17 that are left, but what's your confidence level that Petey can get back to being the sort of player we saw beginning of last year?
It looks to me like he's remembering something. It looks like memories of what to do are coming back to him.
There's a desire. There's a fortitude there. It's visual. You can see it.
Well, it's funny. If you run back through the 5 games, go back a week, the Anaheim game, where he didn't figure in the scoring, but it really felt like he was invested that night.
He was excellent that night.
Follows it up with the one-timer that we haven't seen in forever against Minnesota. Dallas was the write-off, earn your ice time night. The underlines against Montreal were off the charts, and then for him to have a goal and an assist. But more than that, I mean, how many times have we heard Rick Tocchet talking about moments here recently? Well, that was a moment. 3-2 in the third period, puck comes to you, and bam, it hits the back of the net. And when you ask about my confidence in him, Matt, how about his own confidence in the shootout? Like a week ago, he's probably putting that in the corner, not the corner of the net, the corner of the rink. But that just looked like a guy that was absolutely feeling it, or more than he has at any point. Just gets Dustin Wolf to freeze up, and then it made it look easy, right? Down the middle, through the legs, back of the net. So, yeah, I mean, this is an encouraging sign. And couple it with Quinn Hughes' return. I knew if he played, he was going to play a lot. I didn't think that we're going to lean on him to 30 minutes, but with overtime, I suppose. But that is their path forward, right? Lankinen giving them a save. Elias Pettersson produce some offense, and Quinn Hughes play half a game and do what Quinn Hughes does. Like when you look at this dogfight, if we can call it that, Turtle Derby, whatever, these 4 teams, inserting Quinn Hughes into the Canucks lineup, like what an absolute game changer. None of those other 3 teams in the mix can match that in any way with the personnel that they've got on their rosters. So it's just one win, and you're right, they've got to follow it up and follow it up again beyond that. But all of a sudden, there are some reasons, I think, to believe that the Canucks can emerge as, that final wild card team. I don't know how much of an achievement that ultimately is, but this seems to be, the stated desire of the hockey club is to, yes, make the playoffs at the very least. They've still got a lot of work to do, but nights like last night give you a sense that if their top guys are going, hey, yeah, maybe it can happen.
Keep lines the same. Höglander disappeared there in the third period per Rick Tocchet, but he was pretty good up until that point. He was the most active forward, period, and that's only in less than 14 minutes of ice. If you're Rick Tocchet, do you run that back?
Yeah, I liked Höglander's night. I mean, 6 shots on goal, but more than that, 9 attempts. Like for him to have the puck on his stick that much in the offensive zone tells you that he was spending a fair bit of time in the offensive zone, and they spent most of that third period there, but he gets the assist on the tying goal. So again, the coach singled him out the other night as a guy that has played pretty well. Really go back to Christmas. The numbers maybe don't show it. I mean, overall, the whole team, we know that the numbers haven't been there, but the underlying numbers have been good for Nils Höglander. So some signs of life there. A guy that EP40 has had some success with and some familiarity with. So, yeah, I wouldn't upset the apple cart in that regard. It's an off day for them here after back-to-backs. They're going to practice on Friday. That'll be interesting. There's going to be a roll call here. Coach didn't have an update on DPD after taking the shot to the back of the head. Tyler Myers had to be injured if he was unable to play. Now, he was on the road trip. I saw the video of them coming off the ice, and Myers was there greeting the team, and DPD was there as well. But Derek Forbort, open glove hand block shot. You could see that he was feeling it. He didn't play a lot in the third period. So, as we're throwing bouquets around, and we're all sort of still trying to figure out what they've got in Victor Mancini. But, he's put together a couple of decent nights that give you a sense. And again, it's early, and we're not going to write the book on this guy, but being thrown into these situations, he was essentially one of 4 guys that they leaned on last night, and I thought he looked pretty good doing it, a career high, up over 18 minutes of ice time, and you can see the raw tools. They're there, and so, just credit to him for stepping in and pulling on the rope, doing what he could to help the club get a victory last night.
I think they have a keeper there, but how good would Carson Soucy look right now if you're playing without Myers, DPD, or Forbort, or some combination there?
What if he didn't have DPD? Like, DPD's been a bit of a gift, too.
Well, but no, no steps back, but you did actually trade a depth defenseman for a third-round pick, and as we know about playoff pushes and the playoffs, you kind of want all the NHL defensemen you can muster.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways, though.
Yeah.
People were pounding on the table for this team to make some trades and move off pieces, and they free up some cap space in the here and now. Sure, we just don't know, and that's why I say Friday's practice is going to be interesting just to see how many of these guys ultimately are available for the Vancouver Canucks. But yeah, I mean that's too bad for Tyler Myers. Hadn't missed a game all season with injury. Was suspended for the 3 games for the cross-check against Evan Bouchard and the Oilers back in January, but otherwise. He's had a really nice run. He's been healthy. He's been good for the Vancouver Canucks, and let's hope that at this stage, this isn't the kind of injury that's going to take him out of the lineup for long.
Is Hughes, do you think he's able to stay at this level? Do you think that's baseline health for Hughes, assuming, nothing else happens to him? But, is that good enough, too, what we saw from Quinn Hughes?
Yeah, I think so. You could see him dealing on the power play. The power play goes 1 for 4 on the night. Didn't love the fact that his dump in on that other power play kind of started the chain events that led to the shorthanded goal. So we don't see Quinn make those kind of mistakes very often. I'd love to know how he's feeling today after taking a couple of shots there. We know, even Elias Pettersson after the game when he said he's not 100%, oops, I maybe shouldn't say that. I think we all know that, but EP40 kind of letting the cat out of the bag a little bit there. I think every game is going to have its after effect for Quinn Hughes, and so this was great that they had him back, and he, if he's not 100%, he still looked pretty dynamic, plays 30 minutes. Well, now they got back-to-backs here on the weekend. That's a whole nother challenge, right, for him. And then you got the Winnipeg Jets coming on Tuesday, and that's going to be a different challenge. So I think every game right now, it's how does he feel? How did he get through it? Is he available and ready for the next one? But as Quinn himself said after the game, if I wait till I get my timing back and get my feet under me. So he was taking the positive of this is a pretty good jumping on point, but I know I can get better from here. So we'll see how it goes. But I don't think they can lean on him for 30 minutes a night every night, but they might try. But they are going to have to be careful a little bit about managing his minutes here.
I really hope they back off the ice time against Chicago. You should be able to beat Chicago without asking
30 minutes,
Quinn to play 28, 30 minutes. Yeah. Who plays goal on the weekend, Jeff?
Yeah, I think they have to turn to Artur Silovs on Saturday night. Kevin Lankin can't play them all. They rolled the dice here, and they ended up getting the win that they had to have. I still think they probably could have and maybe should have started Silovs against Montreal on Tuesday, but they elected to go the back-to-back here with a little travel. Obviously, no travel with the 2 home games. But it's a lot to ask of a goaltender to go back-to-back, to try and do it twice in a 6-night span. Pretty much unheard of in the modern National Hockey League. Silov's 1 win this year is against the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, they've got Connor Bedard, but they don't score a lot and they don't win a lot. I think you owe it to Lankinen to give him a night off so that he can be back and on form for another important one against Utah. And as you guys said, if you can't beat the Chicago Blackhawks, then is this team really going anywhere in the big picture? So Silovs has to hold up his end of the bargain. He's got to look more like he did in Utah than he did against Anaheim in his last performance. But I still think for the good of the hockey club and the good of Kevin Lankinen, give him an extra day of rest here, get him ready for the Utah game, and run already out there on Saturday night and keep your fingers crossed that an early one doesn't get past him and that that nervous energy doesn't sort of filter through the building. We've seen that happen before in years gone by. So a little bit of pressure on Artur Silov's shoulders, but I do think that he gets the call to go against the Blackhawks.
And if Demko's not practicing tomorrow, it's been a setback again, right? Because he's been skating now. He's been out there apparently numerous times.
I still haven't seen
practices.
him. Yeah, I haven't seen him with my own eyes on this run.
So if he's not visible to us tomorrow, things have gone wrong, haven't they?
Well, Saturday will be 5 full weeks.
Yeah.
Where Rick Tocchet thought that it wasn't serious, and it's turned into 5 weeks at this stage of the season. And you're right, if we don't see him on Friday, well, they're not going to practice over the weekend with 2 games. They probably get Monday off. Then you get Winnipeg in here on Tuesday. Then you're out on a 6-game road trip. So you find me the next practice time, and he would need some practices. After 5 weeks off, he's got to get back. And he himself has said, you can face shots from the shooting coaches. They're not NHLers anymore. Even the Twins and their Hall of Fame credentials. Thatcher Demko said, that you got to ramp it up to practice, and then games are a whole other level. Well, after the Winnipeg game on Tuesday, there's only 15 games remaining on the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, it is getting to the end of the line here. I still believe we're going to see him in game action at some point, but Lankinen's going to play the bulk of the games. We know that. So ultimately, how many games are there left for the backup, for calling Thatcher Demko that? So, yeah, it's curious. There's no doubt, Blake, that, I mean, you say setback. I don't know. It clearly has turned out to be way more serious than anybody could have ever imagined. He took himself out of the game against Toronto. He didn't need to be helped off the ice. It didn't look visually like he was in great distress. And 5 weeks later, we still haven't seen him around the group.
So I would push back on setback, and here's why. Talk had just flat admitted this week he mischaracterized it, that he was hoping it was a tweak and should have known better. He also said needs 2 to 4 practices. So, yeah, that makes the math even more difficult, Jeff, as you go through the calendar. Here's the thing, guys. Thatcher Demko isn't going to play unless everything is right. Mm-hmm. Thatcher Demko is making a business decision here that he is not going to compromise his summer and next season trying to push it this year. All the messaging from Thatcher Demko this year has pointed to, unless everything is right, he's not going to go back in there. And look, I would, at this stage of the game, like, are we going to see him 3 more times? Like, I think it's going to be a limited number of times that we see Thatcher Demko, if we see Thatcher Demko at all.
Right, and put me on easy notes. I'm copying to the fact that after Sunday, they'll have 15 games remaining. They got 17 to go, so 2 on the weekend. Winnipeg will be 14.
That's fine.
So but it's just, you're right. Like, every game that goes by, and look, if the bottom falls out, if like they get on a bit of a losing skid and they fall off the pace, you think, like, what does that do for Thatcher Demko's urgency to get back and play? Like, maybe he wants to get in and test himself for a game or 2 down the stretch just so that he knows. But the flip side, as you said, Matt, is that with him, he's got to get through every start here and get through it unscathed. And the last thing he would want at this point is something that, would cut into his summer training and rehab. And the other part, guys, is while he's been out, they showed their cards, right? They committed to Kevin Lankinen, not just this season, but for the long haul here. And so you do wonder if that affects a guy like Thatcher Demko and he's thinking of, am I going to bust my butt to get back just to be the backup, knowing that they may choose to play the other guy if we're both available and ready to go here. So
they've been exonerated with that decision, haven't they? I mean, like, that decision to re-sign him looks even better the longer that Demko remains out here, because they have to cover their ass. Like, they'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, and ultimately we don't know what it looks like moving forward beyond this season, but in the here and now, they needed a guy they can trust. And when you see the way that they're handling Artur Silovs, it's pretty clear that trust is not there at the NHL level, and so it's basically all Lankinen all the time, and will be. And even if Thatcher Demko gets back, I think if there are big games at this stage with how much action Demko has missed, I think the big games absolutely go to Kevin Lankinen the rest of this season.
Yep. Last question. It's our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. What does the Canucks playoff push need the most, Jeff? We've got Quinn Hughes at 100%, PD's resurgence, Demko contributing. We've covered it all here. Or feel free to go somewhere off the board. What do you think is going to be most important to these final 17 in the playoff push?
I mean, I think the supply is to Quinn, but I would say good health. And, now that's already being tested with the knocks on the back end. And ultimately, we'll see who's available for them on the weekend. But I guess, if I roll that up into a ball, I probably would vote Quinn Hughes being back and somewhere close to 100%. I think we've been told that he's probably not going to be fully healthy again this season. Mm-hmm. I just worry. I mean, you saw, whether it was Ryan Lombard or others, look, he's a marked man, as he should be. He's the best Canuck player. He's going to have a target on him. I just wonder how much can that body absorb if he plays all of these games, and to what end that, if he plays well and he gets them into the playoffs, what does he have left in the tank? And then what are the, we saw last year, Nashville took its pound of flesh every opportunity. Again, I think the stakes would go up, and, if you run into Winnipeg or Vegas in that first round, they would know that, the first thing on their game plan chart would be to finish every check on Quinn Hughes. So games are more fun when he's available. They're more entertaining. He's just fun to watch, and it's good to see him contribute offensively. Obviously, and pick up a point there as he gets his feet back under him. So, all things Quinn Hughes means that much to the Vancouver Canucks. So they got to find a way to rest him up. And I agree with you. You touched on it briefly. Like, if they are able to get out to a lead, and I know this team doesn't get big leads, but if there's any comfort zone in the third period, tell him to take his skates off and call it a night and just get this thing across the finish line. Like, they have to find pockets within games if they do have any sort of comfort zone to rest up the captain and keep him healthy.
Yeah, Victor Mancini, get prepared to play 10 minutes of this third period tonight. We need you. Awesome stuff, Jeff. Thank you for this, my friend. You'll be in for Blake Monday, so we'll host.
We'll have lots to talk about
together.
then. Yeah.
Yes, we sure will. Thank you.
All right.